Nigel Farage has said a full, open, national inquiry is needed, in contrast to Labour Minister Jess Phillips. Sir Keir Starmer has been accused to ignoring a whistleblower who sounded concerns about so-called rape gangs preying on vulnerable white girls. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage has pledged a national inquiry to investigate the scandal if his Reform UK wins the next general election. Jane Sr., a youth services manager who played a vital role in highlighting the shocking issue, in which teenagers were targeted by men of mainly Pakistani heritage, told The Telegraph, "I really thought that because of what I had whistle blown on and my role in Rotherham, I thought he would have at least asked for more information, or agreed to meet me, but no." In opposition, Labour were up there shouting for women, for girls, for child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, and then the minute that they become elected, where are they? She also told GB News, "I felt sidelined by Labour. I wasn't even worthy of a call, a letter or a meeting." Nothing. Starmer has never taken notice of my concerns. We've been ignored for years. It's so telling that he didn't even bother to respond to my concerns and experience at the time. There were a couple of Labour councillors who were supportive and thought the way the council was behaving was despicable. Georgina Halford-Hall, the chief executive of Whistleblowers UK, wrote to Sir Keir 5 years ago to outline the important contribution Ms. Senior had made, which earned her an MBE in 2015. She said, "Again we see the shameful resolve of the whole establishment to put as many obstacles in the way of justice for the 2,000+ victims and whistleblowers as possible." Politics and party loyalty continue to be priorities over the safety and well-being of children. Speaking up came at a very high price for whistleblowers like Jane Sr., who turned to the former Director of Public Prosecutions to step in to protect her from members of his own party and the police who were determined to silence her. It was revealed that Labour, and specifically Junior Home Office Minister Jess Phillips, ruled out a national public inquiry into the grooming scandal during which thousands of girls were raped and sexually abused by gangs of largely British Pakistani men. Maggie Oliver, who helped uncover large-scale abuse in Rochdale, likewise pointed the finger at the Prime Minister earlier this week. Posting on X, the former detective who resigned from Greater Manchester Police in 2012, said, "I firmly believe we need totally independent people who will ensure it's not just another attempt to delay and hide the truth." Radical change and overhaul of all our public bodies. Bring in criminal accountability for all our senior police and public officials who have turned a blind eye. The Conservatives and Labour were both to blame, she added, with former Director of Public Prosecutions Sir Keir perhaps as guilty as anyone I know in where we find ourselves today. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has insisted Ms. Phillips was a fearless and formidable advocate for sexual abuse victims after Elon Musk criticized the safeguarding minister. The billionaire ex-owner suggested Ms. Phillips deserves to be in prison for denying requests for the Home Office to lead a public inquiry. Ms. Phillips said in a letter to the local council that Oldham must follow in the footsteps of other towns such as Rotherham and Telford and commission its own inquiry into historical abuse of children. Mr. Musk also attacked Sir Keir, saying the Prime Minister failed to bring rape gangs to justice when he was Director of Public Prosecutions. Ms. Cooper said Ms. Phillips had campaigned tirelessly on behalf of those that had been failed by institutions. She said, "Jess Phillips has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse." From setting up the first-ever child sexual exploitation service in the Black Country and supporting survivors in Telford, Jess has been a fearless and formidable advocate for victims and survivors. She has worked with whistleblowers and campaigned tirelessly for justice for those badly let down by endemic institutional failure. Ms. Phillips has put the experience of grooming and trafficking victims at the heart of the department's work on modern slavery and launched a national scheme so police and staff work together to spot when hotels are used as a site of child sexual exploitation, Ms. Cooper insisted. Ms. Cooper said the Birmingham Yardley MP would keep working on implementing the recommendations of the Independent Inquiry into Child Sex Abuse, which published its final report in 2022. Led by Professor Alexis J., the inquiry looked into abuse by organized groups following multiple convictions of sexual offences against children across the UK between 2010 to 2014. Including in Rotherham, Cornwall, Derbyshire, Rochdale and Bristol. Last year, Ms. Phillips described X, formerly Twitter, as a place of misery and said she planned to use the site less. Its owner Mr. Musk, a key member of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's inner circle, shared and reacted to a series of tweets relating to grooming in the UK earlier this week. The Tesla boss described the Prime Minister as two-tier Keir, claiming there was no justice for severe, violent crimes but prison for social media posts in the UK. He also said Sir Keir failed to bring rape gangs to justice when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, between 2008 and 2013. Senior Tories including opposition leader Kemi Badenoch, have since sought to put pressure on the government over grooming gangs. In 2022, the then Conservative government also refused a request for a public inquiry into events in Oldham. Mrs. Badenoch repeated her call for an inquiry in the Mail on Sunday, saying some action was taken under the previous Tory government, but not enough. We still need to know the extent to which institutions such as the police, local government and social services are compromised by political correctness, and even self-interest, she wrote. Only then can we have any hope of preventing this scale of abuse from happening again. We have failed to get to the bottom of how national-scale child sexual abuse happens, for fear of causing offense. Reform UK said on Saturday it would launch a national inquiry into grooming gangs if elected. Chairman Zia Youssef told supporters at a conference in Chelmsford, Essex, that his party would launch an independent inquiry that would leave no stone unturned. Party leader Nigel Farage said a full, open, national inquiry was needed, so that everyone in the country knows the truth and understands that mass open-door immigration without assimilation is a complete cultural disaster for our country. A Labour Party spokesperson said, "All complaints are treated seriously and thoroughly assessed in line with our rules and procedures." Complaints are assessed via a specific process, independent of the leader's office, and this was clearly signposted in response to this correspondence at the time. Quote,